Let's draw a map of a fantasy city. So every month on my Patreon, I create a new tabletop role-playing game, adventure, or guidebook, and this month I'm making Flick Silverpin's Guide to Drawing Cities. It's a step-by-step process all about drawing fantasy cities and towns and villages, and the whole idea is to empower you to draw a fun city map for your players or just for fun, and you don't have to have any drawing experience whatsoever. I always say if you can draw the alphabet, you can draw a cool looking map, and this is going to be no exception. So I have to draw the example map for the book, and I thought it'd be fun to bring you along on the process, talk a little bit about this place I'm going to be drawing, and sort of give you a taste of what this drawing cities guidebook is all about. So it's kind of weird, but I never start my map drawings with any actual drawing. I always start by making a list, and in this case my list of things is kind of generic because for this example map I want to make sure I'm covering all of the things that a person might draw when drawing a fantasy map. But I would recommend starting with a list of locations and different types of terrain. So if your city has a big castle in it, write down what the castle's all about. If it's on a cliff like this map is going to be, write down cliff. Are there walls? Is it in a forest? What are the different buildings that are going to be in this city? Write them all down. You can kind of think of it just like a big checklist for your map. Next up, I'm going to do just a little sketch. I guess maybe you could call this like a thumbnail, just a real rough layout of what this city is going to be. So sort of the geography of the city and the way the roads are going to work. Just a really basic layout just to get the image that I have in my head onto a piece of paper in the fastest way possible. And I don't expect this sketch to look like anything to anybody else. This stage is just for me. Now it's time to start the actual drawing. I'm just gonna rule off an area on a piece of Bristol board, and with a pencil I'm gonna start sketching. The way I like to work is starting really loose and then getting more and more detailed. So I'm starting with the terrain of the coastline and sketching in the important locations like the manor house up on the cliff and the roads and the walls. The sketch starts pretty close to that first thumbnail that I did, and then I'm just refining it as I go. So like the roads start out as just lines, and then I'll make them a little bit wider and draw the actual size of the roads. And the areas that the buildings go in are just blank in between the roads, but then I'll start adding in buildings, and really the buildings are just little rectangles with a few added details here and there, some chimneys sticking off the side or some roof details. And working in pencil is great because if something isn't working, you can just erase it and try again. And this top-down city view is such an easy way to draw a map that nothing is too difficult, nothing takes too long, so erasing doesn't feel like a big issue at all. And this planning phase is just so fun, taking a blank sheet of paper and seeing an entire city come alive before your eyes through the power of a pencil. It's the best. It's so rewarding. I can't wait for people to get their hands on this guidebook and start making maps. So like my other guidebooks, as I'm drawing this map, I'm taking notes, trying to really solidify my process so I can explain it clearly in this guide. And the idea is this illustration will be the example in the front of the guidebook. So if you follow all of the steps in the guide, you'll be able to draw a map just like this one that I'm drawing in this video. But this pencil sketch isn't the final map. Now that I have a good idea of what this city of Grey Cliff looks like, it's time to start inking. It's just the next step in refining the illustration. So I'm using Pigma Micron pens to ink this map, a size 08 for most of the lines and a size 03 for the details. You can find these pens all over the place. Any art supply store will definitely have them. I love drawing with these pens because they have a nice uniform line so you can get the exact kind of control you want, but but really any sort of tools that you have on hand will work just fine. If you want to know more about the tools I use or learn about different kinds of maps to draw, I've got lots of other videos on the channel. Definitely check out the other videos. There's lots of inspiration and helpful tips all over this channel. So yeah, as I'm inking up this map, let's talk about Gray Cliff. For a long time, I've had this idea of a city on the side of a cliff, and it's always foggy and gloomy, but there's still a bustling city underneath. And my idea is that Gray Cliff is the home to a bunch of ghouls, or at least it's ruled over by a bunch of ghouls. And I guess ghouls in my world, how many times am I going to say ghouls? Probably a lot more. But ghouls in my world aren't the sort of mindless, bloodthirsty Dungeons and Dragons type of ghouls. They're more like the ghouls from the Fallout video game. Like they're mutated people, but since this is a fantasy world, maybe they're cursed. And I don't know, I just really like the idea of these people that are so decayed on the outside, but have such a strong will to live that they persevere through it. I think there's a lot of fun story to be had with that idea. I'm thinking it happened a long time ago, and maybe now all of these ghouls don't even think of it as a curse anymore, and it's just the way things are, and they're gonna build up this big awesome city on the side of this gray cliff anyway. If you are interested in learning how to draw a map like this, draw fantasy towns and villages and cities, consider checking out my Patreon. There's a digital tier where you can get these guidebooks as a PDF, but there's also a physical tier. So if you sign up this month, you'll get Flick Silverpin's guide to drawing cities mailed directly to you. It's a great way to support the channel, and I pour so much effort into these guidebooks because I want them to be really helpful and useful. So if you're looking to draw a fantasy city map, I really hope you check it out. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.